go ahead and pop this note. Your Honor, that statement. Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. Really? He knows where he's standing. Oh my god. Okay, how does this work? You didn't really need to lean out the window, did you? What are you driving at, Mr. Wright? You already knew ahead of time where the ringmaster's head was going to be. Quite precisely, I may add. Your silly hinting at things is pointless, Mr. Wright. Enough stalling, how about you show us some evidence? But I did such a good job hinting. Yes, hurry up and explain things, Mr. Wright. Maybe you should take a look at this. The key point here is the wooden box. The same wooden box that the victim was found hunched over. The same. The question is, who placed the wooden box there? Who? When Bennett and company saw the ringmaster, they didn't see him holding the box. Which means that this wooden box is already placed at the scene of the crime. I'd admit, though, your theory makes a lot of sense. The moment that the bus came falling down was exactly the same moment that the ringmaster lifted this wooden box. Which means that the answer to all these questions is now crystal clear. You mean, if the bust were the fall point, were to fall upon the point marked out by the wooden box, it would be no way that it could miss the head of the victim. Really? Order! This is unbelievable. Finally, some of these loose ends are starting to tie themselves up. Now I gotta keep going, and there's only one way to go from here, forward. So the next question I have is who placed the wooden box at the scene? It was Mr. Dingling, of course. He connected it to a rope, and then all he had to do was lower it down. How? Allow me to whip some sense into you. Mr. Phoenix Wright. How? The ringmaster's head could have been anywhere when he lifted the box. That's why the box was so specially made. Specially made? Indeed. It had the most peculiar feature. The contents of the box. Do you recall what was inside the wooden box? There was only a small bottle of pepper, wasn't there? Get on with it. Well, what's the matter? Cat got your tongue. I don't know what's peculiar about it. I don't see the relationship between his head and the box's content. I don't either. Oh, it's 20 pounds? A hand? I think I might have overthought myself. No, Nick, you didn't think enough. Mr. Wright, do you still maintain the box had some sort of special feature? Indeed, and the most peculiar feature. The weight? The box has a remarkable weight. Weight? According to the court record, it weighs 20 pounds. Just to lift up this wooden box would have required... Oh, I see. One would have to squat down, then lift it up with their body, wouldn't you say? No? That's exactly what I was trying to point out. The box is also very large. The box also has carrying handles on either side, doesn't it? That is correct. To lift up the box, you'd have to squat down. Which means that no matter who you are, your head would be in approximately the same place. Fool. Did she even bother to listen to me anymore? I've heard what you've had to say. I must admit, I'm shocked at your imaginative skills. Did you drop the bust onto the ringmaster? What are you talking about? Even if I had wanted to do such a thing, I couldn't. What? Mr. Wright, do you recall the original location of this bust? Yeah, it's the cafeteria. Of course I remember. It was on top of the table in the cafeteria. What happened to it? I'd like you to remember one important fact, Mr. Wright. I could not possibly leave the lodging house by myself. That means... You understand what I mean, don't you? I may very well have been able to drop the bust from my room. However, how would I have gotten the bust from the cafeteria to my room? Money the monkey. You see, Mr. Wright, explain that. Don't forget, you said there was no accomplice. Ugh. A monkey's not an accomplice. Tell us exactly how the witness would have carried the bust from the cafeteria. Yep, we definitely have a problem here. But this is no place to get perplexed. I've got to get my wits about me and prove how things happen once and for all. Alright, Mr. Wright, let's hear your explanation. How'd the witness get the bust from the cafeteria back to his room? Money the monkey. Shit, I forgot his own profile. Monkey. Everyone knows Money. He loves shiny objects of any size. For instance, he stole the ventriloquist ring. So are you saying the witness had a monkey steal the bust? Of course he didn't order the monkey to steal it. The monkey stole it on his own, and then brought it back home. Oh. Money lives in Acro's room. Acro's room? But the bust was bronze, wasn't it? Bronze isn't all that shiny. Maybe you should put the whip down sometimes and read the court record. Those are some very nice cards he's holding. Yes, and they're made of platinum, which is very shiny. Fucking platinum? I didn't even read that. It does not say fucking platinum in here. Piece of shit, right? Ah! Acro. Money is a strong monkey, right? It'd be easy for him to bring the bus back to your room. You said he already could. If he wasn't able to handle that himself, I'd be on the market for a new roommate. I said order, Miss Von Karma. Where's the bust in question at this moment? I don't know. We're searching for it as we speak. This is a strange turn of events. If that monkey did not steal the bust, then what happens to this case? Well, in that event, something else must have been used for as the murder weapon. Well, or maybe the bust was the murder weapon, but it was used by accident. That's possible. Maybe Acro saw Money's amount of stolen goods and thought to use one of them. Anyways, I think we've more than proved one critical fact. Namely, that it was entirely possible that Acro was the murderer. Moron. Mr. Wright's argument was so circular, I'm still a bit dizzy. However, his argument does hold water. There's no denying that. Don't seem so flamboozled, especially by this fraud of an attorney. Fraud? You've forgotten the absolute most important thing, Mr. Wright. What is that? You should know. You forgot that your fraud as a magical client was spotted at the scene of the crime. Ah. There is no reason to doubt the clown's testimony. That's true. How do you respond to that, Mr. Wright? Nick, don't let her beat you. I won't. This is my chance to turn this trial around. When the murder occurred, there were two people at the scene of the crime. That was just a bust with a line on it. One was the victim, Russell Berry, and the other was the murderer himself. Answer this and only this, Mr. White. The clown saw the murderer. Who was it then? I'm gonna save. I'm not taking any chances. Because I think it's the boss. He saw Max's Ow! I asked who was the other person Mo saw on the scene. That evidence has nothing to do with the question. Au contraire, mon Ferrier? Ah, fuck, I hate French. It doesn't indeed have something to do with the question. Mo said that he saw Max's silhouette. But he did not actually see the man himself. It wasn't a human being he saw. How is that possible? It's simple, really. What Mo actually saw that night was Max's bust. What are you talking about? Have you tried using your brain at all in this case? The silhouette you saw just happened to be wearing a cloak. There's no reason why you couldn't attach a cloak to the bust, and that's what made up for the hat. Or a cloak like that could easily get snagged on the bust if they came into contact. Idiot, who in their right mind would put a cloak on a bust? Doesn't matter who put it on the bust. Just wait a minute now, Mr. Wright. Who put the cloak on the bust? That question is of the utmost importance in this case, don't you agree? Duh, you got me. So let's have it, Mr. Wright. Who put the cloak on the bust? Well, obviously you'd have to be fucking Russell Berry. Fool? Him? You're saying it was the victim himself, Russell Berry. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the victim himself placed the cloak on the bust, not willingly. Place the cloak isn't really the right way of putting it. And what would be the right way of putting it, Mr. Wright? Explain yourself. Nick, do you really have a handle on all of this? I'm fine, Maya. I'm finally putting all the pieces together. That's really only one picture I can't... There's really only one picture I can paint anyways. Alright. So you want to know what really happened that night? Let's step back in time. Acro used a rope to lower the wooden box onto the scene. Then he attached that rope to the bust, and dangled the bust out of his bedroom window directly above the wooden box. At the same time, the ringmaster told Max to wait in his room and went to the scene, of course. At the time, the ringmaster was wearing Max's costume. Perhaps he didn't want anyone to recognize him that night. But just as he feared, he was spotted at the entrance of the lodging house by none other than a ventriloquist and his puppet, Ben and Trilo. When the ringmaster arrived at the scene, he bent over to lift the wooden box. That's when Acro took his chance and released the rope. Now this is when the magic happens. At the very instant that the bust hit the victim. You wait just a second there, Mr. Wright. Phoenix Wright, as much as you try, as much as you scheme, this isn't true. It can't be. It's still a little early to be getting so upset, Miss Von Karma. This circus isn't over yet. Huh? With the shock of the impact, it threw up the cloak and it got snagged onto the bust. That's when the sound was heard by a witness and he took a look out of his window. That witness was, of course, Lawrence Mo Curls, the clown. When Mo looked out his window, the cloak had already snagged onto the bust. Now, having completed the crime, Acro naturally went about pulling up the murder weapon. Of course, he had no idea that Mo saw the bust being raised with the cloak dangling on it. Primarily because in his wheelchair, he couldn't see out his window. So he just kept pulling the bust up. And that is how the magical murderer disappearing into the sky came to be. Now you know how the murder actually took place. And now you know who was able to drop the murder weapon from above the scene. Acro, it could only have been you. Acro's been playing mind games with all of us. He sure has. But he has come to the end of his rope now. So, what now? You've graced us with a rather long-winded tale. But do you have any evidence to prove that your fairy tale is true? Evidence? That thing's real? In this court, only two things matter: the power of evidence and the power of my whip. I don't think that matters. Don't forget the power of my gavel as well. Mr. Wright, the prosecution brings up a good point. Can we see some evidence? Nick, they say they want evidence. I just explained how there can only be one possible murder method. But there's still something unusual about Mo's eyewitness account. Unusual? A contradiction, actually. Okay, then, so use that and get out of this jam. That's enough talking amongst yourselves. Proceed, Mr. Wright. Present some evidence to the court that backs your claims. I want a hard proof that you have unraveled the trick to this case. Fuck. I don't know. I want to say it's that poster. What have I not used, actually? Autopsy Grand Prix photo. I want to say it's this. But at the same time, I don't want to. I mean, the hat. Problems is Max's three symbols. You know, the silk hat, the cloak, and the white roses. Those symbols were a problem numerous times during yesterday's proceedings. Yesterday, there were two contradictions in Mo's testimony. The silk hat was one, and the white roses were the other. But the theory I just presented explains all of these contradictions. You fool, do you ever shut up? Max's silk hat was found at the scene of the crime. However, remember what Mo said yesterday. He testified that the criminal he saw fleeing the scene was wearing a silk hat. There's only one explanation for that. The silk hat that Mo saw was actually the bust. Makes sense if you look at it that way. Then he did see the hat, well, sort of. Fine, you've got one, but what about the other contradiction? The other contradiction? Remember that what that ventriloquist said in court. He said that he witnessed white roses on Max's chest that night. But the clown's testimony doesn't match. The clown said that there were no white roses. I'd like to see you try and explain that one away. Can you do it, Nick? Of course, I can explain all of it. What was that? Please recall the instant when the cloak snagged onto the bust. If the cloak snagged onto the bust, what happened to the roses? To the white roses? Do you get it yet? If the cloak got snagged onto the front of the bust. It means that the white roses would end up on the back of the bust. Which explains why Mo didn't see it. The white roses were not visible because they were on the backside of the bust. Order! Order! This is quite the shocking state of affairs. Mr. Wright's theory still sounds a bit absurd to me. However, let's keep going down this road for a while and see where it leads. Let's do this, Nick. Maybe Von Karma will finally throw in the towel. Huh. She's never gonna throw in the towel. Well, so much for that theory. Mr. Wright, do you mind? What is it? You took the time to research our circus, didn't you? Well, yes, I did. Is there something making you think that I didn't? If you did, then maybe you'll understand why I think you're off track. Why is that? Motive. The witness feels an incredible debt of gratitude towards the ringmaster. Anyone with any relation to the circus is well aware of this. Thus, there's absolutely no way someone like this would kill the ringmaster. Your Honor, I'd like you to hear Acro's story. Learn about his relationship with the ringmaster and his life up until now. What do we do? There's no doubting that Acro deeply respected the ringmaster. Acro's motive. He wasn't trying to kill the ringmaster. He did it to get Regina. It seems that this case isn't over yet. Very well, however, I feel this is a good place to take a break. I will listen to the rest of Mr. Dingling's testimony after recess. This court will now take a 10-minute recess. Well, I mean, he wasn't after the ringmaster. He was after Regina. Like, he hated her. Still hates her. Because it's her fault that his brother is in a coma. So it's entirely... He was after her. He wasn't after the ringmaster. I can't believe it, Acro. It's pretty shocking, isn't it? It definitely is. And to think he was always the most straightforward of the group. Jeebus, I can't... Unbelievable. Acro tried to pin the murder on you on purpose. He did? My, he's just a little twerp, isn't he? Well, that's one way to put it. Hey, pal. You're gonna ignore me after I went to all the trouble to bring you some evidence. Detective Gumshoe. Forget it. I'm gonna go home. This guy deserves to be guilty anyway. Now, Detective, I'm sorry. Now, why don't you relax a little? We've got some really tasty milk. How about a card trick, Detective? Oh, well, if you insist. Now, how about the evidence you mentioned? What is it? Here you go. This was yesterday in Acro's room. The result of our investigation. You can look at it later. Won't Von Karma be mad that you're doing this? That's why this is all a secret, huh? Look, details are on a need-to-know basis, and we're not really allies or anything. But everything that's happened in court up until now has gone according to our plan. Miss Von Karma looked like she was in a pretty big hurry, though. You'll figure it out eventually, pal. Yesterday, our final plans were put into place. Final plans? That reminds me. I've got a message from the prosecutor for you. Judgment comes at the very last instant. That's it. And that's it for me, pal, too. Pal. I'm going home. What did he mean by that, the very last instant part? Everything he said seemed pretty cryptic to me. Oh, one more thing. Oh, God, don't scare me like that. Looks like there's a large care package from the circus for the defendant. For me? It's milk. The reception area looks like some kind of dairy. So hurry up and drink it before it spoils. Entire's dairy's worth of milk for me? Did I really... Can I have that stupid cloth? Hello, Mr. Judge. This court is now in session. Shall we continue our proceedings? Yeah, but did it ever... Okay, it did get added. Bat's scarf stained with his blood and a small quantity of pepper. Well, I mean, that's why the... Okay. So, the reason he did it, he put the pepper in the case thing. It was symbolic. To symbolize the situations with the lion and all that when he was going to kill Regina. I got you. Ms. Von Karma, please continue from where you left off. I'd like to continue with Acro's testimony, starting with his relationship with the victim. I'd also like to get proof from the defense. Proof of what kind of motive Acro would have to commit this crime. Understood now, Mr. Dingling. Yes, Your Honor? Please proceed with your testimony. Finally, we get to the motive. Wait, Nick, are you okay? Just do me a favor and don't ask questions you don't want the answer to. Oh. I'm doing great. Ringmaster. When we were little, we were abandoned by our parents. That's when the ringmaster of the Berry Big Circus, Russell Berry, took us in. I became an acrobat at 9 years old. I wanted to find a way to repay the ringmaster. That was my sole purpose in life. Yeah, there's nothing there. You're such a thoughtful young man. As you heard, the witness deeply respected the victim. I wonder how anyone could think that Acro could kill the man he held in such high esteem. You're absolutely right. How could anyone think that, Mr. Wright? Which is why there's no need for a cross-examination, is there? Actually, that's the question I'm trying to answer myself. Why would Acro kill the ringmaster? This might be my last chance to answer that question. But he doesn't want to kill the ringmaster, though. That's what I think. Cross-examining is going to just be a fucking waste of time. He has no reason to kill the ringmaster. He has all reasons to kill Regina, not the ringmaster. There's no need to cross-examine this witness. What's that? Why was the ringmaster murdered? There is no need to delve into that bit of a testimony when I know the answer already. Mr. Wright, I'd like to ask you a question. Go ahead, Your Honor. What was Acro's motive for killing the ringmaster? How about it? Can you explain that to me? I can't provide one. Because he didn't have a motive to kill the ringmaster. He had a motive to kill his daughter. Nick? Yeah, I didn't even have to think about it. It was obvious from the start. Your Honor, the reason that Acro killed the ringmaster is something that can't be proven. What? That's because Acro had no reason to kill the ringmaster at all. Ow. Your foolish attempts to fool us like foolish fools is so foolhardily foolish. Did you forget you made an accusation against this witness? Did you not? I believe it was. This is the real killer of Russell Berry Ringmaster. If you want to jump to the end of things, then yeah, that sounds about right. The end of things? Acro. You didn't plan to kill the ringmaster at all, did you? The ringmaster wasn't your target that night. What did you say? I'm saying that the target of the witness, this witness's murder plot was not the ringmaster. He did not plan to kill Russell Berry. What? Order. Bailiff, I don't care who it is. Smack anyone who's loud in the face twice if you must. Mr. Wright, what in the world are you trying to do in my court? Mr. Phoenix Wright, what in the world are you trying to do in his court? Are you attempting to imply that Acro was trying to kill someone else? Yeah, he was trying to kill his daughter. Regina Berry? This young girl is the ringmaster's daughter, correct? Acro, you were really aiming for her that night, weren't you?
Objection!
You don't need to answer that. It's a mean-spirited leading question. He could easily answer this question. If I'm wrong, all he has to say is you're wrong. That's it. That's it, huh, Mr. Wright? Mr. Phoenix Wright. Enough, Mr. Wright, allow me to. Ow. The only thing allowed to interrupt me is death itself. And that goes for you too, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Show me evidence now. I don't know why Acro would want to kill Regina Berry. Yes, me too. I demand to see some proof. Present evidence that proves Acro was out to kill this young girl. It would be in the note. I think. It's either the note or the scarf. Let's go with the note. Acro, do you have any recollection of seeing this? It's a piece of paper that we found inside the ringmaster's tailcoat. Inside the victim's tailcoat? Acro wrote this note. It's ironically entitled to the murderer. Its purpose was to call someone to the plaza at 10 p.m. That person is Regina Berry. So you're saying that he called Regina Berry Russell Berry with that note? Unintentionally. That's just one little problem. Acro did indeed place this note into someone's pocket. However, that someone was not the ringmaster. You mean it wasn't for the... That's exactly what I mean. The person this note was intended for was none other than Regina Barry. Order! Order! Mr. Wright, this little theory of yours is exactly right, buddy.